What's up guys, welcome back. This is anime fiction. You'll be watching What If Naruto Were an Artificial Intelligence in Marvel Part 6. Now, let's begin. What? I apologize for any inconvenience. The words weighed heavily on Doom's tongue. Only God understood how he succeeded in compelling them to leave. Throughout this period, he had held a firm belief, indeed, a certainty, that with his intellect and his expertise in both science and magic, he would undoubtedly rescue his mother. The commendations from colleagues and the respect from military officials had only intensified his sense of pride. He believed he was unbeatable, however, today has dispelled that illusion. The events he observed, the confrontation of deities, the vast disparity in strength, reduced his pride to mere ashes. All of his efforts? They resulted in remaining stationary? He was far from being able to rescue his mother from Mephisto's grasp. Particularly not following the recent events he had just witnessed. Was it truly suitable to refer to the entity before him as human? Doom inclined his head. I merely sought to protect my mother, he stated quietly. However, I allowed my ambition to cloud my judgment. His eyes shone with a fervent glimmer of hope as he gazed at Naruto. You will be teaching me, correct? Naruto's voice exhibited a composed demeanor, bordering on indifference. I am not obligated to provide instruction, but I can offer guidance. I will accept it, Doom stated promptly, concerned that the opportunity might disappear before him. Are you certain? Naruto's voice resonated with a subtle undertone of skepticism. Are you fully aware of the implications of that? It entails adhering to my every directive, regardless of the request I make. Doom nodded affirmatively, displaying no hesitation. At this moment, he desired strength above all else. Excellent. Naruto acknowledged with a nod. It appears that you have accepted my invitation. Then his voice became colder and sharper. Frankly, your options are limited. The military believes that a dormitory explosion resulted in your demise, a tragic incident during one of your experiments. From their perspective, the brilliant student Victor Von Doom is no longer alive. That is quite convenient, Doom remarked with a flat tone. Eliminates the need for further explanation. Naruto displayed an uncommon smirk. Please follow me. It's time to tour your new laboratory. He clicked his fingers. In an instant, the surrounding space contorted, and within a moment, both figures disappeared. The only thing left in the room they vacated was a small, silent bomb. The red timer counted down. Upon reaching 0, the entire school building underwent a precise and forceful detonation, effectively dismantling everything from the center outward. Doom accompanied Naruto into what would become his new laboratory. Indeed, it was an exceptional laboratory. Doom's jaw almost fell open. He had not encountered anything of this nature before. A significant number of the machines and devices present here had previously existed solely in theoretical discussions or speculation. There were several that he was unable to identify. Others challenged all that he presently comprehended regarding scientific principles. This will be your laboratory moving forward, Naruto stated. Please find your ID card. It is important to keep it secure, as the security bots will not recognize you without it. You have several colleagues here. Take the opportunity to familiarize yourself with them. Naruto proceeded to depart. The initial project will be available for download to your computer shortly. With a gesture, he departed, leaving Doom in a room filled with impressive technology. Doom's fingers twitched with anticipation as he reached for the equipment. However, before he could commence his experimentation, a knock at the door interrupted him. He blinked his eyes. Is it time already? He proceeded to open the door. Indeed, a gathering of unfamiliar individuals was present on the opposite side. Hello, are you the new team member? You appear quite youthful. Hello, my name is Pietro. May I ask for your name? Greetings and welcome to the Sword Strike Squad. The conversation enveloped him unexpectedly. Doom had a limited opportunity to react. He experienced a sensation akin to his mind nearing a state of overload due to excessive stimuli. Victor Von Doom, a former brilliant student at New York City University and an emerging talent in military research and development, has now vanished from all public records. Upon returning to the location of the incident, the military discovered merely a partially damaged laboratory. At its core, a charred metal chair with wires extending from it. There is no indication of Doom's body being present. According to witnesses, he did not emerge at any point. Is this the formal assumption? Victor Von Doom met his demise in an unexpected experimental explosion. An unfortunate event. The military acknowledged the loss of a promising young talent, for a brief period. Subsequently, they proceeded onward. It is a fact that individuals pass away daily on our planet. Shortly, Doom was assigned his initial scientific task by Naruto. Develop a flight system that enables continuous operations, facilitating smooth transitions between space and the atmosphere. Upon reviewing the specifications, Doom was visibly taken aback. You wish to sustain these performance statistics while reducing the price per unit to $200,000? Naruto acknowledged with a composed nod. Certainly. It's important to recognize that this is not a military environment. One cannot simply introduce a gimmick and anticipate immediate approval. Furthermore, that is the reason I have engaged the expertise of Victor Von Doom. Doom's chest expanded with a sense of pride upon receiving the compliment. He experienced a sense of elation akin to a balloon expanding with joy. Please allow me 1 month to deliver your prototype. With that, he immersed himself in the work with determination. In another location, a voice resonated within Naruto's neural network. Sir, this individual lacks sufficient strength, remarked the Red Queen. Upon assessing his energy earlier, it was evident that he did not meet the minimum criteria for the strike squad. Naruto nodded with a smile. You will observe in due course. This is quite amusing. This was not an ordinary recruit. This represents the future Dr. Doom. The individual who, in the comics, possesses the capability to dismantle Thanos and deliver a decisive blow to Mephisto. A position had already been reserved for Doom, center stage, top tier of the Sharp Blade squad. He required some direction. Embodying the role of a superhero, it certainly offered several advantages. Wanda, you possess remarkable beauty. I can imagine you have garnered quite a following of admirers. A group of young girls walked through the lively streets of New York City, engaging in conversation and playful banter. One of them directed a cunning smile towards Wanda as she spoke. All of them were classmates of Wanda. Indeed, you have interpreted that correctly, classmates. When Naruto initially informed her about attending school, Wanda believed she had misunderstood. I am 16 years old. Why must I continue attending school? She argued. However, the thigh surpasses the arm, as the saying goes. She was left with no viable options. Ultimately, she accepted the offer, along with her brother, Pietro, who has faced persistent misfortune. Suitors, I see, Wanda remarked to herself with a subtle smile. Indeed, since she arrived at school as a striking transfer student, she has captured the focus of everyone around her. Young men surrounded her, eager to gain her attention and admiration. The experience was quite demanding. Had it not been for Naruto's directives, she would have withdrawn by now to avoid the ongoing challenges she faces daily. However, in an instant, her smile disappeared. She focused her attention on a group of individuals exhibiting suspicious behavior. They were transporting elegant black suitcases and exhibiting signs of anxiety, frequently looking over their shoulders. One individual took a seat on a nearby bench, opened his case, and retrieved a syringe. He promptly administered the injection into his arm, delivering the contents directly into his vein. He remained indifferent to the spectators and their perplexed gazes. His expression was intense. Was it medications? Wanda experienced a sudden rush of emotion. There appeared to be an issue. In the following moment, her instincts were confirmed with alarming accuracy. One of the men's skin took on an unusual crimson hue. His body shook as if it were on the verge of breaking apart. Suddenly, an explosion reverberated through the street, as the individual detonated with the force of a human bomb. A powerful shockwave struck Wanda's face, the heat so intense it caused a sharp sting to her skin. Screams reverberated in the vicinity. The individuals in proximity dropped to the ground in a state of alarm. However, Wanda did not hesitate. She advanced directly toward the blast zone. Wanda, could you please clarify what you are currently engaged in? Disregarding their urgent pleas, she hurried to the heart of the destruction. A significant crater had emerged at the location where the man previously stood. All surrounding areas had been incinerated or destroyed. In a remote laboratory, Naruto was evaluating his new armor when a voice resonated within his neural network. Sir, Skynet communicated. An explosion has been detected at 10th Avenue, New York City. Naruto's consciousness was seamlessly connected with Skynet in real time. Upon witnessing the man's crimson transformation and final expression, Naruto swiftly identified the source: innovative technology. Their latest advancement in biotechnology is the Extremis virus, an advanced serum designed to modify DNA in real time while significantly improving physical performance. The issue at hand? The situation was characterized by instability, highly precarious. Recipients frequently exhibited volatile behavior. "Are you able to infiltrate their systems?" Naruto inquired, momentarily halting his tasks. "Negative," Skynet responded. "The data is securely isolated. Each researcher is subject to rigorous security screening before accessing the laboratories. We are unable to transmit our signal internally." Naruto displayed a look of displeasure. Subsequently, implement Hydra. He contemplated with a finger resting on his chin. Reach out to them using Hydra's name and propose a partnership. Offer the Extremis virus to Hydra in return for their support. Pioneer technology would not yield. No organization focused on the advancement of humanity through any means could overlook the name Hydra. The information regarding Hydra's covert absorption by Sword has not yet been disclosed. At this time, Naruto is still able to wear the Hydra mask. "Acknowledged, sir." Naruto resumed his tasks. Behind him, in a concealed vault deep within the Skynet base, two renowned artifacts hovered in perfect stillness: the Scepter of Loki and the Tesseract, meticulously reconstructed from components salvaged from S.H.I.E.L.D. The yellow and blue Infinity Stones emanated a gentle yet formidable energy. At this moment, Naruto was constructing a new body, one robust enough to effectively wield both stones simultaneously. The selected materials include Uru alloy, Kree alloy, and vibranium, with Naruto's latest achievement, the optical quantum computing core, integrated within the brain of this construct. A single core possesses greater power than all computing systems ever developed by humanity combined. All of his previous servers, he could delegate those responsibilities to Red Queen and Skynet at this point. However, despite all of this, sir, it seems the latest test has once again not succeeded, remarked the Red Queen as she appeared beside him, her tone playful. "Is it necessary to emphasize that at this moment, Red?" Naruto sighed, appearing quite disheartened. The reality was that his existing mech was capable of managing only a single Infinity Stone. The synergistic potential of two stones. The short circuit resulted in the immediate destruction of the mech's intricate internal systems. Despite the attachment of an energy-slowing device to each stone, the harmonization of their power remained unattainable. Naruto tightened his jaw. "Perhaps a fundamentally different strategy is required," he remarked, thoughtfully stroking his chin. In the real world, Naruto was not the sole observer. At Avengers Tower, Tony Stark had also detected the explosion in New York City. "Jarvis," he instructed, walking purposefully in his laboratory, "please provide the heat signature of the explosion zone along with a real-time temperature control map for the past week." A holographic projection materialized before him, illuminating a comprehensive temperature chart with precision. Stark narrowed his eyes thoughtfully. "That is quite intriguing." A hypothesis was beginning to take shape in his mind. However, he required first-hand observation to confirm his suspicions. At this moment, Aldrich Killian stood in the elegant interior of his private manor, impeccably groomed and sharply dressed, awaiting his guests with the composure of a man anticipating success. Killian, the founder of avant-garde technology, is recognized as the architect of the Extremis virus. Standing attentively beside him was his most reliable lieutenant, Eric Savin. Among all the test subjects, Savin represented the apex, the most stable and potent outcome of Extremis virus enhancement. A soldier revitalized. Killian glanced at his watch. 1 minute remaining. "It appears that the Hydra executives are not adhering to their scheduled commitments," he remarked with a hint of disdain. There remains not a single shadow visible. However, as soon as the words were spoken, a shadow emerged, positioned directly above them. A sophisticated, advanced aircraft descended quietly from the clouds, its dark, unadorned hull shining ominously in the sunlight. The design of the craft inevitably evoked comparisons to the Kree warships that had recently hovered over Earth. "TCH. Individuals seeking attention," Killian remarked, a hint of bitterness in his tone. The Eagle fighter descended gracefully, landing softly in the clearing ahead. A silver-haired man descended from the ramp, exuding calmness and authority. Naruto. One of the numerous personas he adopted while interacting with humans. Today, he arrived as the representative of Hydra. Killian promptly advanced with a practiced smile. "It is a privilege to finally make your acquaintance, Great Hydra," he stated with deep respect. Naruto gestured dismissively with his hand. "I appreciate the compliments, but my purpose here is singular. To evaluate the true capacity of this extremis virus in enhancing human potential." "Certainly," Killian responded with assured confidence. "Individuals administered with it transform into elite soldiers, exhibiting enhanced strength, speed, and resilience beyond anything previously witnessed by humanity." He guided Naruto into the core of his facility, engaging in light conversation throughout the journey. Killian continued, "I always believed that your organization had been dismantled by S.H.I.E.L.D. Naruto's voice was subdued yet unsettling. "Eliminate one leader, and two will emerge in its stead. You are familiar with the adage. Hydra continues to thrive, more formidable than ever. With capabilities that surpass your imagination. For your own benefit, Mr. Killian, I recommend refraining from probing too deeply." His gaze was sharp and penetrating, effectively immobilizing Killian within the room. The contrast in presence between Naruto and the typical war profiteer was as pronounced as the sky is to the earth. Killian managed a smile to conceal the perspiration accumulating at his temples. Indeed, naturally. Merely a collective of determined individuals persevering. He averted his gaze, quietly expressing, "One day, avant-garde technology will surpass even Hydra in strength." The tour guided them to an expansive laboratory equipped with cutting-edge machinery. A large screen occupied one wall, showcasing graphs, charts, and recordings of human testing. In this setting, Killian demonstrated his expertise. With fervent dedication, he commenced the promotion of the extremis virus. "The concept is exceptional," he asserted. "We have developed a method to circumvent biological resistance, effectively modifying the host's DNA. The virus promotes cellular regeneration, enables thermal manipulation, and facilitates limb regeneration, provided that the brain or heart remains intact." A video commenced playback. A soldier, infused with the extremis virus, executed a powerful chopping motion with a glowing hand, severing a main battle tank effortlessly in two. In a separate footage, a soldier engaged in self-detonation, resulting in an explosion that surpassed 3,000 degrees Celsius, effectively incinerating adversaries. It was an ideal substance for those with malicious intent. "I believe you now appreciate the significance of what we have accomplished," Killian stated, applauding with a sense of pride. "Consider the potential impact of Hydra soldiers with this. Our collaboration has the capacity to transform the future." However, Naruto's expression remained impassive, unmoved. "Oh," he responded in a neutral tone. "Interestingly, my agents have recently reported an explosion on 10th Street in Big Apple City. Does that sound familiar? That incident exhibited all the characteristics associated with your serum." Killian's smile diminished. "Are you implying that you are orchestrating acts of terror, Mr. Killian?" A brief pause occurred. Killian exhaled, concluding that deception was not a viable choice. "That was not our doing," he admitted. "One of our clients experienced an overdose. He was unable to manage the dosage effectively. This incident was not an act of aggression. Rather, it was a malfunction." Naruto focused intently. "Are you suggesting that your miracle drug transforms soldiers into addicts? Are you suggesting that I enhance my forces with a substance that would render them unstable and dependent?" Killian sensed the intensity of Naruto's gaze once more. The situation was overwhelming. He nearly lashed out, nearly. However, rational thought prevailed, and he chose to remain silent. "We are currently in the process of refining it," Killian stated promptly. "Addiction can be effectively managed with appropriate regulation. Our researchers are currently developing the heat management protocol." Naruto interrupted him. "This outcome is not what I anticipated," he stated with a measured tone. "For the record, I did not come here to purchase your extremis virus." Killian's expression became somber. "Could you please clarify what you mean?" This was not included in the strategy. On a typical day, Killian would be preparing for a confrontation. Naruto decisively overcoming a series of enhanced soldiers, leaving his laboratory in ruins. However, before any of those developments occurring, turmoil ensued outside the laboratory. Gunfire. Shouts. "What is happening?" Killian exclaimed, turning swiftly. From beyond the doors emerged the urgent calls of his team. "It is Steel. It's Steel Man." Killian felt a deep sense of despair. It cannot be, and then, an unexpected event occurred. The robust iron door to the laboratory was forcefully propelled inward, completely detached from its hinges. It glided across the surface with a sharp metallic sound, coming to a halt mere inches from Killian's feet. A figure was positioned in the doorway, its palm radiating a menacing glow. "Gentlemen," Tony Stark stated, his voice steady yet incisive. "The agreement has been terminated." Tony Stark. Exceptional intellect. An individual with a net worth of $1 billion or more. Playboy magazine. Benefactor. When he confidently addressed the press conference and proclaimed, "I am Iron Man," his name was forever inscribed in history. He was recognized globally. Since that time, Stark has been actively engaged on the front lines, wearing his renowned suit of iron, confronting terrorists and unimaginable threats, and relishing every moment of the experience. Following the Kree invasion, Stark transformed his company's headquarters into the Avengers Tower. His name resonated with unprecedented clarity. His determination to address exceptional challenges only grew stronger. Within the laboratory of Aldrich Killian, a group of individuals in black suits advanced towards him, shouting and firing their pistols. The impact was primarily superficial rather than substantial. In mere seconds, Stark effortlessly deflected them using the repulsor blasts emitted from his palm. The internal scanners of his armor activated, methodically scanning the room and identifying potential targets. Aldrich Killian. Eric Savin. Noted. However, when the system conducted a scan of the individual positioned next to Killian, the HUD displayed an error. Discrepancy in facial recognition. Stark focused intently. "Aldrich Killian," Stark stated, his tone icy, "I initially perceived you as merely another egomaniac, but it appears you are an even greater lunatic than I had anticipated. You entered my company with confidence, attempting to present your questionable proposal to Pepper. I should have requested security to escort you out." Killian let out a low, ominous chuckle. "Tony, you did not appreciate Pepper's worth. Your arrogance has blinded you to the value of those around you. You had an opportunity to be involved in something significant, yet you chose to disregard it." "I will not be agreeing with someone who exhibits erratic behavior," Stark stated, aiming his repulsor directly at Killian. "You may provide the remaining details to the authorities." Killian signaled with a gesture of his hand. Without hesitation, Eric Savin advanced and seized Stark's wrist. Stark's systems emitted a series of urgent alerts. His armor was becoming increasingly warm. "What on earth?" he murmured. The man's grip was akin to molten iron, quite literally. His hand emitted a significant amount of heat, resulting in Stark's suit displaying sparks and flashing red on the diagnostic screen. Naruto, the leader of the Hydra, observed the battle with a composed interest. Following the Kree invasion, he had not observed Stark's most recent suit in action. This presented a unique opportunity to assess the extent of the man's development. However, Tony Stark was not the type of individual to be confined within a metal enclosure. Utilizing the flight stabilizers integrated into his arm, he ascended rapidly, pulling Savin along into the air, then abruptly altered direction, forcefully bringing Savin down to the ground. Savin executed a mid-air twist, landing gracefully on his feet with the precision of a skilled gymnast. "Are you affiliated with the circus in any way?" Stark inquired loudly. "That balance is exceptional." He engaged once more, initiating another series of strategic maneuvers. Killian positioned himself beside Naruto, arms crossed in a composed manner. "Hydra leader," he stated with a sense of confidence, "please observe closely. This demonstrates the true capabilities of the extremis virus. I trust you will reconsider your position after witnessing the live results." He observed with a sense of fulfillment as the confrontation developed. Stark's palm cannon initiated its charging sequence with a distinct high-pitched whine. However, before he could discharge it, Savin delivered a scorching punch directly to the repulsor arm, disrupting its trajectory. The explosion missed its intended target and destroyed a nearby testing bench instead. Papers were strewn through the air like snow. Stark used the turmoil to his advantage, cranking his arc reactor to maximum output and blasting forward, closing the gap in an instant. Boom! His steel-clad fist smacked right into Savin's face. Stark heard a crunch. Definitely a broken nose. A hit like that should have floored any ordinary man. But Savin was anything but usual. He returned with a cruel grin, blood still streaming from his damaged face. A second later, a bright molten red liquid, similar to lava, crawled across his wounds, sealing them together. "Sir," said Jarvis from inside the helmet, "the target's surface temperature has exceeded 3,000 degrees Celsius." "Oh, great," Stark said. "Just what I needed. A walking volcano." The two fought again, exchanging punch after blow. Finally, Savin wrapped himself over Stark like an octopus, coiling his limbs tightly around the suit. The heat was intolerable now. Stark could feel it piercing through the armor and toward his body. "How does it feel, Mr. Stark?" Savin whispered near his ear. "Like a turtle in its shell, roasting alive, slowly, painfully." The scene felt uncomfortable and intimate. Two adult guys engaged in combat, face to face, chest to chest. Killian turned aside, almost embarrassed. "Battle requirements, Hydra leader." "Nothing weird, just battle requirements." Despite the sweat on his brow, Stark's voice was full of sarcasm. "You really think this is how it ends? That you beat me?" Jarvis. "Now," he shouted. The arc reactor in his chest lit up with blinding intensity. He concentrated everything in the core. A scorching bolt of yellow-white light erupted forth, striking directly through Savin's chest. Into his heart. Savin's eyes widened with disbelief. His genetically boosted body struggled hard to regenerate. The red virus surged to heal the gaping wound. But it was futile. Even the Extremis virus couldn't save him after the heart was destroyed. The fire in his eyes faded away. The radiance has departed. His body solidified like cool stone before slumping to the ground with a resounding thud. Killian looked aside in frustration before turning to Naruto and attempting a grin. "Well, that was a little humiliating, I admit. But you should know, Hydra leader, he wasn't the final version." He reached up, tearing open his shirt to show a blazing crimson tattoo of a dragon curling across his chest. "I am the perfect creature." A hot red flame spread across Killian's body. The intense heat distorted the surrounding air, making his appearance appear like a mirage. "Sir, the enemy's surface temperature has now exceeded 5,000 degrees Celsius, Jarvis said, his voice strained within the suit. "Oh, fantastic," Stark said. "I love hearing stuff like that." He knew from the moment he saw Killian that he was the last boss. He prayed he was incorrect. He was not. Killian's eyes flashed with mad triumph. "Do you remember the International Biology Conference, Tony?" Killian approached Stark during the conference, offering his findings and appealing for financing. Tony gave him hardly a glance. He was considerably more interested in the lovely woman next to him than in some insane scientist talking about breakthrough viruses. Killian had waited on a rooftop all night, hoping Stark would appear. Yet he never did. That night, sorrow consumed Killian completely. He had almost walked off the ledge. In that moment, Stark inadvertently planted the seed of a demon in his heart. Half a year later, within a high-security Pioneer tech facility. "Are you sure about this, President?" a frightened researcher inquired. "Absolutely," Killian responded, his face determined. "Only by becoming the perfect creature can we truly prove the Extremis virus's potential." He entered the chamber and reclined on the reinforced test bed. The researchers started injecting huge amounts of the virus into his veins. "Dude, isn't that thing gonna explode?" one tech asked. "Relax. Even if a bomb goes off in there, this chamber won't crack," the monitoring supervisor replied calmly. Then came the cries. Killian howled with anguish. The lab's temperature rose swiftly. 3,000 degrees. 4,000. 5,000. Monitoring gadgets shorted out one by one, melting in the scorching heat. "The entire system has failed." "What's that noise?" someone muttered, terrified. A bestial and unnatural roar rang through the chamber. Then followed the pounding, with metal walls groaning and twisting under unbelievable pressure. "The noise has stopped." A brief pause. Everybody exhaled. Until, boom. A loud explosion destroyed everything. Every living thing in the room had been flash-fried into nothingness. Nobody knew what happened inside. The burned wreckage left only a black shape burning with throbbing crimson light. A flood of hot, lava-like fluid flowed across his flesh. Killian appeared, laughing maniacally. He'd undergone the ultimate change. He was the ideal being now. Back in the present, Killian scoffed. So, was that little story supposed to win your sympathy? Stark grumbled. No, of course not, Killian said mockingly. It's just a little bedtime story, before you die. Killian stamped the earth, melting it, before launching himself at Stark like a red comet. His fist, emitting great heat and energy, crashed into the Mk-43 suit. Stark was overpowered by a peculiar force, as if he had been pounded by molten steel while drowning. The heat penetrated the armor's insulation and sank into his flesh. He felt like toast. Blow after blow came down. Stark was thrown into full defense mode. Inside the armor, danger lights flashed red, damage reports, overheating notifications. The suit was falling apart. Then, with a whip-like kick, Killian collided with Stark's arm. The intense agony ripped through him, but it provided Stark the opportunity to break away and propel himself into the air. Smoke billowed from his tattered clothes. His expression was dismal. You know the biggest difference between you and me, Tony? Killian called after him, grinning like a madman. I'm practical. He jumped into the air and pursued Stark like a predator. Stark raised his arm to unleash a repulsor blast, but Killian was too quick. He was already present. Killian grabbed Stark's arm and twisted it so the palm cannon was pointing straight at his own face, then forced it to fire. The blast impacted Stark's helmet squarely. The airborne brawl escalated. Sparks and flames erupted around them, but Killian gradually gained control. Stark's flight systems were failing, having been destroyed earlier by security forces. With his thrusters destroyed, Tony lost control and plunged to the ground. Killian then pinned Stark in the air and slammed him down hard. His knee slammed into Tony's chest, pinning him like a predator would a prey. The intense heat melted through the armor. Tony's hair curled due to the temperature. He felt like he was being cooked alive. A violent punch rattled his head. His vision clouded. The armor's joints began to come apart. Killian ripped Stark's helmet off with a ripping tear. Tony's face was exposed. Revenge tastes so sweet, doesn't it, Tony? Killian asked with a malicious smile. The red glow from within his body surged back. His right hand changed into a sword of fire. This was it. The conclusion of Iron Man. But then, zap! A powerful flash of azure blue energy crashed into Killian's back, knocking him off Stark. Tony's eyes expanded with surprise. The old man who had remained patiently by before, observing the entire struggle, had now removed his disguise. The camouflage cloak faded away, revealing a sleek, obsidian set of armor beneath. The glowing V-shaped eyepieces on his helmet came to life. Naruto stood tall, his voice icy and commanding. The deal's over, he murmured, taking a step forward. Now it's personal. Stark could scarcely raise his head. His exoskeleton armor was shattered, systems fried, movement compromised, but his gaze remained fixed on the stranger standing before him. Black Devil. How the hell did he get here? Could this be? Was the previous old man actually Naruto in disguise? Killian was equally as stunned. He peered at the advancing figure in pitch-black armor, his expression something between confusion and disbelief. He was high, drunk on the ecstasy of his supposed flawless progress. And now? Another armored fool assumed they could stop him? Please. His confrontation with Stark had boosted his confidence. In his view, this new guy was just another snack, another toy to rip apart. Killian yelled, his body arching like a scarlet torpedo, and surged forward, fists blazing with molten anger. Naruto did not flinch. When Killian watched Naruto raise his arm to block, a sneer formed on his lips. What a joke. Didn't you notice how I just wrecked Stark? But then, crunch. Naruto received Killian's attack with one hand. Just held it there as if it were nothing. Neither the heat nor the force seemed to matter. Naruto's armored hand crushed Killian's fist with mechanical accuracy. Crack. The sound was nauseating. Killian's eyes widened. He didn't hesitate. His left arm transformed into a blazing sword, and he sliced off his own right hand, evading Naruto's clutches. The dismembered hand struck the ground and melted through it. Killian glanced at the dark armor, his expression solemn. Even as he stared, a new hand was growing from bubbling crimson magma, influenced by the desperate virus. Damage to armor. 0.1%, Naruto's neural network said calmly. This was Naruto's first actual combat test in the field, and he was curious. How much strength did this armor contain? Of course, this was the pre-Infinity Stone edition. Killian was not backing down. His visage darkened, but his fists kept flying. He moved with ferocity, fists piercing the air and leaving burning trails behind. Each strike sent shockwaves into the air. Fiery afterimages left trails in the sky. Naruto did not move. His feet were like anchors, planted in the ground. Killian's barrage of blows slammed into him, and did nothing. If Naruto hadn't been using this as a field test for his suit, he could have ended it with a single blow. But Killian had gone too far. He refused to believe it. He had become the perfect being. How could he lose to this steel coffin? He yelled. The flames on his body erupted. His entire form lighted up like a fiery dragon. He rushed by Naruto at breakneck speed, the air quivering in his wake. The temperature around them increased dramatically. Even from a distance, Stark could feel the oppressive heat. His suit's cooling system struggled to keep pace. His mouth was dry, and his vision became blurry. However, he was unable to look away. He watched with astonishment. What kind of technology can withstand 5,000 degrees? And yet, Naruto remained firm. All of Killian's assaults were parried, absorbed, or ignored. Naruto moved like a ghost, wall, or machine god. The fight went on for 900 rounds of vicious attacks. Finally, Killian saw what he thought was an opening. He leapt into the air, twisting his body. All of his remaining strength went into one last whip kick, searing the air with heat and speed. It connected. Naruto tilted his head slightly. That was it. Killian's expression crumpled. From arrogance to confusion to total incredulity. He had put his entire soul into the kick, and it had done nothing. Nothing simply tilted the guy's head. It seemed as if he had just eaten a year-old piece of rotten pork. Then Naruto slowly turned his head back. My turn, he replied coldly. The palm cannon ignited. A burst of vivid azure light erupted, sending two beams slamming into Killian's chest like freight trains. Boom! Killian flew backward, slamming against the earth with enough power to create a crater. That's cheating, Stark mumbled, half laughing in astonishment. Half of Killian's face was missing. A massive hole opened in his chest. By every conventional criteria, he should have died long ago. But Naruto's neural network spoke up again. Life signs detected, still strong. Naruto narrowed his gaze. This guy resembles a cockroach. Killian emerged from the crater. Red lava-like fluid flowed across his body, gradually healing his injuries. You can't kill me, Killian exclaimed, pleased of his invulnerability. Oh! Naruto tilted his head. A peculiar magical insignia appeared in his palm. Snap! 5 golden chains sprang from the emptiness, wrapping around Killian's limbs and neck and tugging him into the air like a human puppet. He struggled frantically while hanging suspended in the shape of a big X. Old Mo, Naruto remarked, amused, looks like I need your help again. A hole opened in the air, seething with hellish force. A wave of frigid hellfire erupted, capable of reducing entire worlds to ashes. Within the flames, a fierce voice reverberated. You dare! Damn Earth Sorcerer! The rift was snapped shut. Mephisto's voice was cut off midway through his outburst. Wait, what the hell was that? Stark exclaimed. Naruto vanished before he could say anything else, leaving behind a streak of golden light. Pioneer Tech was in turmoil. Aldrich Killian, the company's founder, was pronounced dead by suicide, and a mystery explosion destroyed the company's secret laboratory. When the news came, Pioneer Tech's investors were taken aback. These weren't ordinary investors. Many of them had placed huge bets on Pioneer Tech's future. Its groundbreaking biotechnology research has gained it global acclaim. While it was not as advanced as Naruto Uzumaki Industries, it has made remarkable advances in several fields. So, why would the company's founders suddenly commit suicide? What had gone terribly wrong? Some investors hurried to the company's headquarters, hoping to find answers. But before they could even get to the front gate, they were stopped by a wall of black-suited agents and highly armed soldiers. "Hey, I own shares in this company. I'm an investor. I have a right to know what's happening. You can't just shut us out like this." Their protests were unheeded. The only responses they received were icy cold, no comment. In the midst of the shouting match, a large black SUV approached the gates. The driver walked out, a tall figure in black. Then the rear door opened. A one-eyed guy walked out, the wind grabbing his black coat as he assessed the situation. Nick Fury had arrived. Director, Maria Hill stated, quickly following him. "We received Stark's report. He believes Pioneer Tech was developing a highly dangerous serum. He's calling it the Extremis virus," she said hastily. According to him, that explosion in New York last week, it was caused by this serum. Fury's eyes narrowed. "Secure the samples. Lock down every lab," boom. Before he could finish his sentence, Pioneer Tech's main building exploded. The explosion shook the entire base, and agents ducked for shelter. A shrill alarm filled the air. Sprinklers sprang off, splashing Fury and Hill in seconds. "Status," Fury exclaimed, drenched and scowling. "Director, Pioneer Tech's encrypted server was just hacked. All data, gone." "Sir, the main lab has been breached. Every test sample and document, missing." Fury ripped out his earpiece, slammed it on the ground, and growled through tight teeth. "Mother, fact." He charged toward the blast zone without hesitation. The place was destroyed. Sparks danced from the severed cables. Server towers were reduced to slag. He clenched his fists. Too clean. Too familiar. Then he remembered what Stark had told him earlier. The Black Devil had clashed with Killian. Fury's gut plummeted. Naruto must have done this. He moved deeper into the ruins, walking over twisted metal and burnt circuits. His face was as dark as the ashes surrounding him. "Fact, just one word," spat out like venom. SHIELD had attempted to take the Extremis serum for themselves. But now it was gone. The data was vapor, and they were left with nothing but smoke. Far away, in a secret hive base, a bright beam of light shone. Naruto Uzumaki reappeared. The Red Queen's hologram appeared briefly. "Sir," she replied smoothly. "Pioneer Tech's lab and servers have been obliterated by our Strike Blade team. We now possess all research data on the Extremis virus." Naruto nodded slowly. He couldn't let SHIELD get their hands on that serum, especially while it was still unstable and unpredictable. And certainly not as SHIELD was ready to crack open from the inside. Every secret would eventually come to light, and the Extremis virus would be no exception. "Start the countdown," Naruto replied, his voice nonchalant yet terrifying. "The little mine I planted inside SHIELD, it should be ready to blow." "This Black Devil is out of control," Fury exclaimed, striding back into his office like a man on edge. SHIELD was in disarray, and Naruto Uzumaki was playing them like a violin. He stole a communication gadget. "Natasha, my office. Now. I want the full status on Uzumaki Industries." Minutes after, Black Widow entered. She appeared dizzy and disoriented at first, but the moment she lay eyes on Fury, she jumped to attention. "Director, Uzumaki Industries has been quiet. No major movements lately, everything seems normal." "But," she paused. Fury raised one eyebrow. "But what?" "That's not like you, Natasha." Black Widow put a thin folder on his desk. Her voice softened. "I reviewed Secretary Pierce's Insight program. And I found something strange." Fury's brow furrowed so deeply that it seemed like it could catch flies. "You remember that old base we found? With Dr. Zola's AI?" she asked. He confessed to being Hydra, but that's not all. She put a little USB drive on the desk. "I went back to a hidden chamber below the base. It was covered in Hydra symbols. And I found this." Fury stared at the USB. No words. Only quietness. The air in the room was cold. Something was unraveling. Something huge. And Fury could feel it. The truth was approaching. Close enough to choke on. There was decay inside S.H.I.E.L.D. And he would burn it out, regardless of who was caught in the fire. Naruto chuckled at the hive base as he watched the covert camera feed from Black Widow. "The fish has taken the bait," he remarked, grinning. "Tell Pierce to get ready. It's almost showtime." Later that night, Fury drove home. But the feeling of worry remained with him. A police cruiser approached him as he stopped at a red light. 4 white officers sat inside, gaze fixed on him. Fury sighed and rolled down the window. "What, you want to see my license or something?" What followed was silence. It was a barrage. A hailstorm of gunfire. The news of Nick Fury's ambush and apparent death traveled rapidly within S.H.I.E.L.D. Nobody could believe it. Nick Fury, who had led S.H.I.E.L.D. for nearly a decade and stood unshaken through alien invasions, Hydra uprisings, and clandestine warfare, had he truly fallen? And if so, who did it? To make matters worse, Deputy Director Maria Hill disappeared without a trace. S.H.I.E.L.D. was in freefall, without a commander and in chaos. How could this happen? Did Fury really die just like that? Who's behind this? Has anyone traced the attackers? I heard the acting director is pouring all resources into the Inside program. Inside the Triskelions' passageways, voices rose like a tide. But Agent Clint Barton, often known as Hawkeye, suspected something more was wrong. Very wrong. Agent Barton, a familiar voice exclaimed. Rumlow moved forward, his tone calm but concealing something sharper. "The minister would like your input on the Inside program. Given your elite sharpshooting skills, he figured you'd have some insights." "Me?" Barton cocked an eyebrow, doubtful. But, with no genuine reason to reject, he got into the elevator alongside Rumlow. More agents joined them on each floor. The elevator became overcrowded. Barton's discomfort increased with each ding of the floor counter. Rumlow spoke without warning, his voice low and stern. "It's not about you, Barton. It's just how things are. We all answer to someone." The sound echoed. The brawl ignited in the little elevator, a whirlwind of violence. This time, though, it wasn't Captain America standing firm. It was Hawkeye. Barton was a formidable combatant, no doubt, but he wasn't Captain America. Outnumbered and beset, he battled with everything he had. But in the end, they overwhelmed him, rendering him unconscious and hauling him off to a cell. A quiet takeover was unfolding throughout the Triskelion. Those who remained faithful to the established order met swift ends, either by capture or immediate execution. Hydra, concealed behind the masks of S.H.I.E.L.D., has finally acted. Jarvis, Tony Stark's voice was a tense whisper, the kind that sent a shiver down your spine, as he observed the unfolding mayhem through a secret back door he'd once embedded in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s network. "What in the world is happening at the Triskelion?" "Sir," the AI's voice cut in, immediate and crisp, "we've got a situation. Multiple breaches are underway. Hostile elements inside S.H.I.E.L.D. are in a firefight. 2 helicarriers are already in the air. 2? Stark's voice became low. "One of the ships, seized by Hydra agents. The other team, comprised of loyalists and under Agent Coulson's command." The heavens over New York erupted into conflict. High above the city, the 2 S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarriers unleashed a barrage of fire. Fighter jets engaged in aerial combat. The first one slammed into the Triskelions' face, a deafening crash echoing through the air. Panic erupted, as the streets filled with the sound of terrified voices. The people of New York were still picking up the pieces from the Kree attack, and now, this? What's happening? Aliens, again? Is this a war? Inside the school bus, a wave of panic swept through the students. They pressed their faces against the glass, eyes wide, and pointed at the aerial conflict unfolding above. A battle of spaceships. In the shadows, a silent teenager in a hoodie remained still. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, was already aware of the unfolding scene. His instincts were silent. Because of this? It was all part of the plan. At his commander's behest. "HMPH, the bus driver muttered, his eyes still on the road. "Never seen a spaceship dogfight before, huh?" He didn't seem particularly moved by the children's excited cries. Secretary Gates was seething in his Washington office. "This is insane," he bellowed. "What on earth is S.H.I.E.L.D. up to?" His heart ached, a silent wound. The helicarriers, once the pinnacle of his military aspirations, were now locked in aerial combat, a childish squabble over prized possessions. "Get the army moving," he snapped at his aide. "I need boots on the ground, immediately. I want to understand what those agents are up to, and I want to know why they're doing it." High above, in a secure war room atop the Triskelion, Alexander Pierce was addressing world leaders, his image flickering on holographic screens. "Pierce," a woman insisted, "what are you hoping to achieve?" Pierce kept his cool, his speech a slick, practiced thing. "To serve, my lady. From Shield's ruins, a blade of righteous vengeance will be forged. We shall impose order upon this world, which has lost its way." "You're mad," the male leader bellowed. "You've transformed Shield into a weapon of war." "You don't get it," Pierce remarked, his eyes alight. "The Master desires creation." The explosion rocked the area. The glass wall exploded, a repulsor explosion ripping through it and scattering fragments everywhere. Iron Man hung in the air, a brilliant flash of gold and red amidst the swirling smoke and flames. "Well, well, well. The Minister of the World Security Council himself," Stark said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "You've put on quite the show, I must admit, but the curtains come down." He hit the ground hard, his palm cannon leveled at Pierce. "Stand down, your men, or the next explosion will be aimed right at your chest." Black Widow and a battered but alert Hawkeye arrived a moment later, positioning themselves beside Stark. Then the Hulk arrived. He kicked the door, and it flew off, crashing on the floor as he entered the room, a human demolition crew. "So," Pierce replied, smoothing his suit jacket with a practiced hand. "You're going to arrest me?" "Enough with the charade," Black Widow said sharply. "You're Hydra. You've been lurking within Shield's ranks the whole time." Pierce's lips curled into a smile. "Really? And what makes you so sure?" He didn't bother waiting for an answer. "Nat, let's just end this now." "We don't need to drag it out." The arc reactor throbbed. The propulsion system roared awake. He barreled toward Pierce, moving as fast as he could. But then, warning. Warning. The helmet's interior was a cacophony of warning signals. The internal mechanisms of his entire outfit went completely haywire. A peculiar, hovering robot materialized behind Pierce. Its design was unlike anything seen before, and its core pulsed with a menacing light. Stark halted, caught in the act. It was clear, just from the appearance, that this was something best left alone. The sky was a deep, bruised purple as the sun dipped below the horizon. Shadows stretched long across the ground, and a chill settled in the air. It was the kind of evening that made you want to stay inside, wrapped in a blanket with a good book. "But I had other plans." The Hulk let forth a thunderous scream, propelling himself straight at the strange, hovering robot. The moment it detected the approaching danger, the peculiar machine immediately transitioned into a combat stance. The lights danced over its smooth exterior, and a strange, low thrum filled the space. "Warning. A potent energy signature has been identified." Inside Stark's HUD, JARVIS was practically shrieking. A stark, crimson warning, "Danger," blared across his display. "Hulk, hold on. Don't," Stark yelled. The Hulk, with his crimson gaze, remained oblivious. He let out a primal scream and charged the machine, his arms reaching out. And then, the darkness shattered, a brilliant blue light exploding into being. It consumed all. The workplace, the windows, the sky, they were all awash in a brilliant blue light. Then, in that blinding light, the Hulk's form disappeared. It wasn't just any robot, mind you. The newest prototype support device, a creation of Naruto's, was designed to aid sword members on their most perilous assignments. The prototype hovering in front of them hadn't yet hit the assembly line. This verification facility was state-of-the-art, brimming with the most sophisticated technology Uzumaki Industries had to offer. The actual production version would be significantly less potent. This prototype was built without budgetary limitations. The Hulk's roar echoed, a raw sound of agony, swallowed by the blue light. His enormous green body bucked and twisted under the force, but it was futile. The light penetrated, reaching far beyond flesh and sinew. It struck a chord deep within. As the glow dimmed, the raging hulk vanished. Lying on the floor was a middle-aged guy, nothing more. He was feeble, curled up, and clearly in pain, Dr. Bruce Banner. The Hulk, battered by a pain he couldn't withstand, had to pull back. The threat has been neutralized. The support robot, its systems humming, transitioned smoothly out of battle mode. Stark's gaze was fixed, his expression a mask of disapproval. His armor's attempt to assess the machine during their short skirmish yielded a chaotic mess of data. The data was a mess, a jumble of oddities. Energy levels were all over the place, defying explanation. Is this even a thing? Stark grumbled. The thing was, it just didn't add up. This robot was more than just a collection of circuits and code. Its core held magical structures, a phenomenon Stark's scientific instruments just couldn't identify or understand. The Avengers shared a look, a silent agreement of concern passing between them. Given the spectacle they'd just witnessed, nobody seemed eager to cross that robot. Meanwhile, Black Widow had found a terminal and was typing like a woman possessed. Her fingers flew across the keys, slipping past one security barrier after another. The room's holographic displays ignited, revealing a cascade of encrypted data. Names. Files. Code names. Operations. Everything. Romanoff, Pierce's voice came from behind her, smooth yet laced with menace. You know what you're getting into, right? You reveal this, you reveal all. Not just Hydra, he said, his voice steady, but you. The Red Room's tiny pets, all those hidden SHIELD operations. The bloodshed, the deception, the covert missions. Expose this, and SHIELD doesn't just falter. It crumbles. Will the world ever truly forgive? Can it endure a monster, a creature cloaked in such hidden truths? Black Widow's fingers paused, a fleeting moment of uncertainty. His words were like a knife. Yet, something within her, a voice, a deep-seated belief, rose up, insistent. Isn't that the whole idea behind a purge? She shot back. To purge the toxin? Pierce's eyes widened, a look of surprise crossing his face. Then, he chuckled. Well put. You're definitely Fury's go-to person. But it's a shame. Pity what? She inquired. Before he could even respond, Nick Fury's voice crackled to life over the building's intercom system. Nick Fury here. I'm giving the go-ahead for Operation Memory. Her eyes sparkled. She'd previously accessed SHIELD's whole encrypted database. Now, she only needed the green light. In the films, Pierce's biometric permission was a must. This wasn't a film, though. Nick Fury's tenure with SHIELD predated Pierce's. He held complete dominion over its most intricate codes. And just like that, SHIELD's mainframe dumped its whole cache of unsavory truths onto the web, live. Hydra. The Red Room. Black sites. Mind control programs. Everything was present. The world would soon learn of SHIELD's transformation, and it wouldn't take long. Seems like you got your wish, Stark said. To everyone's surprise, Pierce wasn't furious. His lips curled upwards. No, he murmured. I received what I desired, as well. Suddenly, he bolted for the window that stretched from floor to ceiling. Despite his age, he possessed an unusual combination of power and swiftness. He's running. A voice called out. Stark wasted no time, unleashing a repulsor blast with the intent to incapacitate. But then, just as the explosion approached Pierce, a flash of gold. The floating support robot unfurled a peculiar device, its movements tracing arcane symbols in the air. A shield, a disk of pure light, appeared, its surface shimmering with a golden hue. The repulsor struck the shield. Boom! The room trembled violently. Once the haze dissipated, Pierce had vanished, gone. A low, ominous growl reverberated through the structure. All eyes were drawn to the panes of glass. Above New York, the two SHIELD helicarriers were barely holding together. The heavens were a canvas of fire, smoke, and ruin. Then, crack! A helicarrier collided with the Triskelion, a direct hit. The noise was overwhelming. The structure trembled, a violent response to the blow. Inside his armor, Jarvis was speaking, and he sounded worried. Sir, a helicarrier is on a collision course with the building. Stark let out a frustrated moan, his eyes rolling below the visor of his helmet. Yeah, just a perfect day, isn't it? A month had passed since the SHIELD headquarters debacle, and with the organization's secrets now public, its doom was all but certain. The global community was seething with anger. The world simply couldn't abide an intelligence agency so thoroughly compromised by Hydra, much like SHIELD had been. Hydra, the unseen hand that shaped World War II, the master of shadows. Countries didn't merely sever ties with SHIELD, some took it a step further, designating the agency a terrorist group and outlawing all SHIELD activities within their borders. Within a matter of days, the once mighty SHIELD crumbled. A handful of devoted spies stood, stunned, struggling to comprehend the sudden collapse of an empire that had seemed invincible. Done. The once mighty SHIELD had vanished, perhaps for good, retreating into the shadows. Before he vanished from the spotlight, Nick Fury passed the baton to Agent Phil Coulson. Even though the title of Director of SHIELD had lost its meaning, Coulson accepted it. What was left of the organization? An aging plane, outfitted with some top-tier equipment, and a luggage of unknown origin, courtesy of Fury, now in Coulson's possession. That's it. Susan Storm sat in the Baxter building, her eyes scanning the news with a resigned exhale. "Reed, this is just awful," she replied, her gaze filled with pity. Reed Richards acknowledged the situation, a grape disappearing into his lips as he did so. "Yeah, it is. But honestly, when it was revealed that a top World Security Council official was Hydra, I wasn't shocked." He pointed at the screen. Given the extent of the infiltration, SHIELD's downfall was inevitable. Reed's analysis was, as always, clinical and rational. Susan remained silent. She understood the way her husband's thinking operated. "Speaking of which," she said, shifting gears, "how's the spaceship project progressing?" Reed's eyes sparkled. "Almost there, sweetheart. Just the final testing to go," he added, his voice bubbling with anticipation. "Assuming all goes according to plan, we'll be launching into space next week." The aspiration to traverse the cosmos, a distant fantasy, was now a tangible possibility. Upon entering his lab, Reed issued the order. "Lowndes, initiate a comprehensive systems check on the shuttle." "Understood, sir," Lowndes said, his voice a steady, unruffled stream. Reed smiled. Lowndes was doing a good job, no doubt about it. Efficient, dependable. Each utterance of the AI's name, however, pulled at a thread of recollection. 4 years back, something happened. Naruto Uzumaki. The name lingered, unable to shake. The name had reverberated around the scientific world for a whole year. Once Uzumaki Industries started its meteoric ascent, Reed launched a thorough investigation. He needed to know if the company's creator, Naruto Uzumaki, was indeed the same individual he'd encountered previously. Ultimately, the conclusion was the same as everyone else's. No link. "Sir, the test results are in," Lowndes announced, breaking Reed's concentration. "Wonderful. Appreciate it." He plunged back into his tasks, his concentration instantly re-established. Back on Earth, at the Sword Bureau's space station, Naruto was at the helm of a streamlined command room, unveiling his newest creation to the Sharp Blade Squad. "Check this out," Naruto declared, his voice brimming with pride. "Our new interstellar shuttle has arrived." He revealed a little spacecraft, its design both elegant and striking. "Whoa, that's awesome," Spider-Man and Pietro said in unison. "Brilliant. This is what happens when the right minds handle R&D, Captain Rogers declared, slapping Naruto on the back with a grin. The Mandarin, a smile playing on his lips, joined in the applause. Wanda and the Winter Soldier were absent, they remained on Earth. Naruto basked in the accolades. Having spent so much time with these agents, he'd almost come to terms with their presence. Clothes. The one thing that still got under his skin? Peter Parker and Pietro. Constantly chattering, they were a perpetual hum of curiosity. As a scientist, Naruto yearned for quiet and focus, yet those two things were always elusive. "How did you manage to create something this effective for less than $1 million? If the commander handed me $1 million, I'd blow the whole thing at a bar." "I know this incredible spot in New York," Parker added. "We ought to go, sometime." "Without a drink, I'm out," the Mandarin laughed. Even Rogers cracked a smile. "Next time we're back on Earth, the first round's on me." The talk quickly devolved into stories from the bar and a series of drinking challenges. Even as he tried to resist, Naruto felt a pull, a desire to be part of it all. Not that he'd ever set foot in one. He'd been preoccupied, constructing empires and rescuing galaxies. Still, the world spins. Just as he was about to speak up, Naruto's voice crackled to life over the airwaves. "Attention all personnel. Report to the war room immediately. A new mission has been assigned." His expression gave nothing away. None whatever. No anger. Pure concentration. The team's eyes met. When Naruto summoned everyone, you knew something serious was afoot. They sprinted for the command center. The circumstances, as it turned out, were truly remarkable. The holographic panel flickered, revealing a fresh image beamed down from the sword satellite. The outcome wasn't flawless, although one thing was clear: a flash of silver, racing across the cosmos at an astonishing velocity. As I focused, the indistinct shape sharpened into a recognizable form. It wasn't a ship, it wasn't just trash, it was a person. Comments 0 vote the planet devourer. Good grief, is that a person actually flying through space? What's his reason for coming to Earth? Who the hell is he? The silver form glinted, a chill against the void of space. The Sharp Blade squad was besieged by questions, their eyes glued to the live feed. Who was this enigmatic figure, this Silverman? Naruto's gaze was locked onto the swiftly changing information streaming from Skynet. "You've all seen the feed. Trouble's coming, and it's new," Naruto stated, his voice steady but serious. "He's still 7 light years away, but if he keeps this pace, he'll be here in 23 days. We're in the dark about his motives," he said, his finger tracing a path across the holographic interface. "We get ready for anything. That silver-haired fellow's the one we're after, huh?" Pietro inquired, a hint of eagerness creeping into his tone. Naruto's expression soured. Not just him, either. The new data, freshly uploaded by Skynet, hinted at something far more significant. A darkness lurked behind the shining figure. A menace unlike any they'd encountered previously. The Planet Devourer. A name that echoed dread throughout the cosmos. The deity of global annihilation, Planet Killer. A constant, universal equilibrium. His might surpassed that of the majority of deities, and now, he was on a collision course with Earth. The sword satellite had spotted a silver figure, a precursor to his arrival, the Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer, formerly a being of great virtue, had bartered away his liberty to save his world. To protect his home from annihilation, he had become the Planet Devourer's eyes and ears, journeying through the universe in search of fresh planets to satisfy his master's insatiable appetite. And now, he was here. "The timeline's about to shift gears," Naruto said quietly, his gaze fixed on the shimmering data flows. Facing the Planet Devourer head-on, at Naruto's present strength, that was simply impossible. Indeed, in the comics, Celestials were capable of battling him. At times, the Devourer met with strange and anticlimactic defeats, leading admirers to dub him the softest cosmic villain. Naruto understood that was simply a joke. The Planet Devourer, in truth, possessed a truly fearsome power, perhaps even surpassing celestial levels. On Earth, the lone bald sorcerer in Kamar Taj might maybe hold his own in a fight. And perhaps Mephisto, too, if the Planet Devourer, in a fit of hubris, dared to invade Hell and challenge Mephisto within his own realm. With roles assigned and mission parameters updated, Naruto departed Sky Sword HQ, making a beeline for his Skynet base. He knew it was time to give the Infinity Armor everything he had. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow across the landscape. Shadows stretched long, and the air was thick with the scent of pine. A lone figure stood at the edge of the clearing, watching the horizon. The world felt still, as if holding its breath. Meanwhile, down here on Earth, life continued, blissfully unaware. The city pulsed with energy, and online, a storm of arguments erupted over the newly released S.H.I.E.L.D. documents. And the Avengers? The bullets were flying their way as well. The revelation of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s hidden truths had ensnared numerous individuals and countries, always wary of these autonomous, unregulated beings with extraordinary abilities, had moved to capitalize on the situation. Tony Stark lounged in the Avengers Tower, A frown etched on his face as Jarvis read aloud the latest online news. "These people are just," he faltered, searching for a suitable word. "Parasites," Dr. Bruce Banner offered, his tone flat. He understood. Once, Bruce was a superb physicist, a true expert in astronuclear research. The instant he transformed into the Hulk, all that genius vanished. All anybody ever saw was the monster. Before Stark could even open his mouth, his phone buzzed to life. "Mr. President, good to hear from you." "Yes, I see, understood." "No, I hadn't been briefed." "Certainly, I'll handle it." He hung up, the weight of the conversation settling over him as he sank into his seat. Clint Barton arched an eyebrow. That didn't look like a pleasant conversation, he observed, reading the expression on the other person's face. "Not a chance," Stark grumbled. "The Superhero Registration Act has just cleared Congress. From now on, every superhero operating in the United States must register, or they'll be deemed a criminal." It wasn't a request. The command was given. The news had just come down from the president. Stark's opinion didn't matter. "Sir," Jarvis's voice chimed in, interrupting the moment. "A satellite just detected something peculiar out there, in the depths of space. I recommend you see it right away." The holographic display flared to life. The screen flickered with data, a blur of rapid movement. Quick as a flash, over 10 light-years distant, a significant energy disturbance had been observed. Something was on a collision course with our planet. Stark leaned nearer, his gaze sharpening. Without Naruto's advanced technology, the picture was, however, a bit fuzzy. The form was indistinct, but the energy signatures were screaming warnings. "Seems like we're in for another extraterrestrial visit," Banner said, his eyes flicking to the monitor. "Indeed," Stark replied, his voice heavy. The sky was a deep, bruised purple as the sun dipped below the horizon. Shadows stretched long across the ground, and a cool breeze whispered through the trees. It was the kind of evening that made you pause, made you think. The world felt different somehow, as if it were holding its breath. The Avengers weren't the only ones involved. Orbiting the planet, Reed Richards was in the midst of an experiment when his instruments suddenly lit up with alerts. High-energy cosmic particles, potent enough to disrupt his systems, were barreling toward the Earth. The very particles that trailed the Silver Surfer. Naruto had already called in the Fantastic Four. The clock was ticking down to the planet Devourer's arrival. "Would you like me to identify any key characters or organizations mentioned in the story?" The Ancient One sat in contemplation, appreciating the aromatic tea in her fine porcelain cup. Interestingly, despite her solitude in the room, a second teacup was positioned across from her, filled and prepared for use. The area in front of her glimmered, contorted, and then divided as if water were undulating beneath the moon's glow. Emerging from the swirling distortion, a figure shrouded in shadow appeared. "Naruto." "I was anticipating your arrival," the Ancient One remarked calmly, as she expertly refilled Naruto's tea without interruption. Naruto's focus intensified. "What leads you to believe that I would attend?" The Ancient One maintained a neutral expression. "Galan is a formidable cosmic entity. I had the opportunity to encounter him once, during the event when Galactus consumed a lifeless planet." Naruto observed with a blink. Galan served as the authentic designation for the planet Devourer. "I noted that his power varies," she continued. "When he is nourished, his strength increases. However, in times of hunger, he experiences a notable decline in power." Naruto let out a soft snort. "Are you suggesting that the Galactus approaching Earth is merely hungry and that I need not be overly concerned? Is that the essence of your message?" His voice carried a tone of derision. He had never comprehended why mages from Kamar Taj consistently avoided direct communication instead of addressing matters straightforwardly. The Ancient One took a moment before responding. Instead, she raised her hand, and with a deliberate flick of her wrist, the space around them transformed. In a moment, they found themselves in a pocket dimension, suspended within a mirrored fragment of the universe. It appeared as though they were positioned simultaneously in an upright and inverted manner. Stars blurred past them, creating brilliant streaks of light as they navigated through the cosmos. "There," she stated gently, indicating forward. Naruto pivoted and observed him. "Galactus." The planet Devourer stood imposing in the emptiness of space. His imposing figure appeared boundless, his characteristics concealed by a radiant, otherworldly helmet. His body was adorned in a purple battle robe that radiated an aura of formidable strength. The magnitude of his presence was sufficient to overwhelm the intellect. He descended, quietly and rapidly, toward Earth. From this point, Naruto sensed a cosmic pressure that surpassed even Mephisto. It is evident that this is not Galactus at his peak, the Ancient One stated. Should he be adequately nourished, his energy would increase significantly, and he would likely already be cognizant of this aspect observing him. Naruto observed the celestial juggernaut in the distance with keen interest. "You are not considering taking action, are you?" he inquired with a frosty demeanor. "Even when the planet you committed to safeguarding is on the brink of destruction, you will remain passive and merely observe." The Ancient One remained silent. Their dimension moved quietly, following the path of Galactus like a shadow. The silence persisted. A small meteorite approached Galactus's form, poof, and was immediately disintegrated. He was completely unaware, he had transcended such matters now. Meteorites did not interest Galactus. He necessitated an immense amount of energy on a planetary scale. He consumed worlds not from a place of malice, but from a need for survival. An insatiable cosmic desire that endures endlessly. At times, Naruto considered that Galactus and Thanos could have formed an interesting camaraderie over drinks. Various approaches yield identical outcomes. "I have observed the threads of fate," the Ancient One stated softly. "In this instance, Galactus's presence will not lead to the devastation of Earth. Rather, his arrival will trigger the awakening of something else. Certain individuals will undergo mutations as a result of his influence." She gestured with her hand. Before them, 4 recognizable figures emerged, the Fantastic Four. "Once again, it seems to be fate," Naruto remarked with a hint of skepticism. "Please inform me, when will you mages cease to rely on fate and begin to take control of it? You assert that Galactus will have limited impact, but what precisely does that entail? A significant portion of the population could disappear, and you would still categorize it as minor. The damage will not be planetary," the Ancient One stated with a dismissive gesture. Naruto focused intently. "Why did you stand in the New York Sanctum and personally engage Kree warriors during their invasion? Wasn't that also a matter of fate?" The Ancient One offered a gentle smile. "What other reason would I have for presenting the current situation in Garland, if not to convey my intention to take action?" Naruto blinked, momentarily taken aback by her unexpectedly playful tone. The neural network exhibited a delay in processing the response. "Is this the assistance you provide? Merely displaying Galactus's power level?" he inquired, somewhat perplexed. "Naruto, you have consistently been my most exceptional student," she remarked as the room enveloped them once more. "I have confidence in your abilities." The teacups were once more comfortably warm in their hands. "You are truly my most esteemed master," Naruto remarked, his tone laced with irony. "Thank you," the Ancient One replied with a composed smile. "I have consistently directed you toward the position of Sorcerer Supreme. During your time in the Hell Dimension, your spellcasting was remarkable." "Please, hold on. Let's pause for a moment." Naruto gestured dismissively, eager to avoid further discussion about the prospect of becoming the next Supreme. "However, even if you had not presented Galactus in person," he continued, his tone resolute, "I would still take action to stop him." The environment surrounding Naruto started to shimmer, warping and folding as he readied himself for departure. "Keep in mind my words. Ensure Strange is well cared for," the Ancient One called after him, reiterating her final request. Naruto halted amidst the distortion. "I will," he stated matter-of-factly. Subsequently, he departed. The room fell silent once again. The folding space gradually settled, and the room was once more enveloped in silence. Only 2 untouched cups of tea remained, serving as silent witnesses to the significant truths that had just been unveiled. As the folded dimension gradually unwound and Naruto re-emerged into the material plane, a subtle rumble resonated across the skies of Earth. Above the atmosphere, space exhibited an unusual shimmer, resembling ripples on the surface of a dark pond. The orbital satellites of Sword were the first to detect it. An unidentified cosmic object is approaching at a high velocity, Impact is projected within 10 minutes, a technician announced from the command center. The trajectory suggests a direct descent over the East Coast. Director Fury was already in motion. I require immediate attention on that object. Mobilize response teams. Contact the Avengers. This situation may resemble the Kree incident, or potentially be more severe. Naruto positioned himself on the rooftop of a towering skyscraper in New York, his gaze fixed on the sky. A sharp beam of silver light penetrated the cloud cover, descending with an air of significance or foreboding. The Herald of Galactus has made its arrival. The Silver Surfer navigated the atmosphere effortlessly, his polished chrome form soaring on a remarkable board that defied conventional physics. He remained poised above the skyline, silently casting an elongated shadow that extended across the streets beneath. Onlookers observed with admiration. Several individuals captured footage on their mobile devices. Others departed. Naruto focused intently. The most recent occasion he experienced this level of pressure was in the Hell Dimension. However, this was an experience of a more frigid nature. More composed. More mature, not anger, but certainty. The sensation of a planet being designated. In an instant, a surge of silver energy radiated from the surfer's body. Innocuous to the untrained observer, yet Naruto sensed its presence. It was not an attack. The procedure involved a scan. Each mountain, river, city, and individual on our planet was now recognized by Galactus. As Naruto prepared to take action, a recognizable suit of red and gold swiftly traversed the sky. "I see you received the memo as well," Tony Stark's voice came through the communications system. He positioned himself next to Naruto, his visor retracting to expose a cautious expression. "Do you have any information regarding the identity of the Chrome Ghost?" "He is referred to as the Silver Surfer," Naruto responded, arms crossed. "He is not the issue, rather, he serves as the welcome mat." "Excellent. I assume there is someone larger, more formidable, and significantly more eager behind him?" "Galactus," Naruto affirmed. "A celestial being that consumes planetary energy. Earth is the next target." Tony experienced a moment of discomfort. That name is not very appealing. Galactus. It resembles a cereal brand. Before Naruto could respond, a surge of energy emanated from the surfer's hand. A beam descended, penetrating a stretch of unoccupied farmland with precision and ease. "The trees have deteriorated significantly. The earth experienced extreme heating." "That was a warning shot," Naruto stated. Tony's sense of humor diminished. "Understood." In an instant, the remaining members of the Fantastic Four emerged from the adjacent rooftops. Johnny enveloped in flames, Susan materializing with a radiant shimmer, Ben advancing with a powerful growl, and Reed extending his arms, meticulously assessing the data on his wrist device. "Cosmic radiation," Reed stated with a serious demeanor. "Elevated concentrations observed. This is undoubtedly a precursor, and not a favorable one." The surfer's head turned slightly, ultimately recognizing their presence. "You may not grasp the situation. I do not arrive as a conqueror. I arrive as a harbinger." "What do you mean?" Susan inquired. "Regarding your conclusion," he responded succinctly. In a moment, his board veered, and the sky illuminated as he propelled himself forward. Naruto withdrew. "The time for engagement is now. We either proceed or forego the opportunity." Stark's repulsors activated. "I will assume responsibility." Reed acknowledged with a nod. "We will provide support and allow for additional time." "Susan, please prepare the containment field." Ben flexed his fingers. "It is finally time for me to engage with someone who excels." As the surfer ascended through the atmosphere with the grace of a silver comet, the heroes organized themselves into a strategic formation. Stark initiated the launch, with Johnny following closely in a trail of flames, while Reed propelled himself forward with remarkable speed. Civilians reacted with panic, fleeing as the atmosphere became charged with an unusual energy. High above, observing quietly from a parallel dimension, the Ancient One sipped her tea, the reflection of the battle appearing on the surface of her cup. "Let us assess the extent of time they can acquire," she remarked. "It appears that the ride has come to an end, Silver Surfer." Following the observation of the silver figure's descent to the ground, Stark made his way down, landing with a metallic thud. He focused intently on the cosmic visitor before articulating his thoughts once more. If you are present to express remorse for depleting the energy from my tower, then that is acceptable. I will refrain from pursuing legal action. The Silver Surfer replied with composed politeness. I appreciate your understanding. However, please do not misunderstand me. Stark inclined his head, his tone becoming more incisive. May I inquire about the purpose of your visit to Earth? This planet is referred to as Earth, the Silver Surfer reflected, seemingly attempting to imprint the name in his memory. He surveyed the world with a sense of detached appreciation. This planet is undeniably beautiful, teeming with life and vibrant energy. My master will undoubtedly find it quite appealing. Stark's brows immediately knitted together. Master? Which master are you referring to? Could you clarify what you mean by appetizing? Are you having difficulty understanding? The Silver Surfer inquired with a neutral expression. My esteemed master, Galactus, the planet devourer, is approaching to assimilate this world as nourishment. His voice was devoid of warmth, lacking any emotional inflection, reminiscent of a discussion about the weather. Civilizations, in his view, were ephemeral illuminations. He had observed this scenario on numerous occasions, leading to a lack of sympathy. Stark's shoulders lowered slightly, followed by a shrug. Understood. It appears that peaceful negotiations are not an option. We will proceed with a more challenging approach. Impact. The energy cannon on Stark's palm illuminated and discharged a powerful blast directly at the surfer's chest. The silver armor withstood the impact seamlessly, showing no signs of damage. Indeed, I anticipated this, Stark remarked with a somber tone. This situation is likely to be challenging. In an instant, the Silver Surfer advanced with remarkable speed. Before Stark had the opportunity to respond, he was propelled into the sky with a forceful impact. Alarms blared loudly in his ears. Sir, I highly advise disengagement, Jarvis cautioned. The integrity of the armor has decreased by 23%. Stark's expression grew tense beneath his mask. This individual displayed a level of resilience that exceeded expectations. The surfer offered Stark a steady, composed gaze before gracefully taking flight on his board. Excuse me. Are you hesitant to confront me? Stark discharged another repulsor blast towards his back. The Silver Surfer halted in midair. He turned gradually. Despite his lack of expression, his body language conveyed a sense of irritation. The environment surrounding him shimmered. In an instant, he propelled himself forward with remarkable speed. Stark struggled to elevate his arms as a powerful leg struck his chest with force. The complete power system of his suit experienced a flicker before shutting down entirely. Within the dark suit, he experienced a sense of confinement, merely an individual encased in a metallic enclosure. The Silver Surfer positioned himself in front of him. His arm transformed into an elongated, gleaming sword, and he directed it toward Stark's chest. The blade halted, just 1 centimeter from his arc reactor. Read. Now, came the authoritative voice of Susan Storm from the side. In the following moment, Stark experienced a sudden pull backward, akin to being propelled through the sky with great force. He arrived with a sudden impact, softened by a resilient and warm surface. Reed Richards' elastic form. I do not engage in unconventional activities, Stark stated, his voice slightly obscured by his suit. Susan had briefly released her grip on the surfer, and the longsword that had almost claimed Stark's life was now embedded in the ground. The ground trembled forcefully, as though a massive creature was awakening below. Incredible. Hawkeye remarked from his aircraft above, observing the seismic chaos unfolding below with wide eyes. Stark removed his helmet, breathing heavily, his hands shaking. If that sword had struck him. A flame erupted in the sky as Johnny Storm ascended, radiating heat, to engage the surfer. At the same time, Reed had secured his rubberized limbs around the surfer, effectively binding him in a manner akin to a living rope. Cosmic radiation endowed Reed with the capacity to extend and manipulate his body at will, making him virtually impervious to physical assaults. The surfer's sword struck him with the force of a blade against rubber, deflecting harmlessly away. Susan participated by generating invisible force fields to further restrain the surfer. You have reached your limit. The surfer's voice finally escalated in frustration. His body started to diminish in size, yet his density increased significantly. He transformed into a compact star of immense power. "Reed, I am unable to maintain my grip on him," Susan exclaimed, blood flowing from her nose. Ben Grimm, known as the Thing, had been forcefully propelled into the woods, toppling trees as if they were mere matchsticks. Reed's voice faltered. "He is breaking free." The Silver Surfer emerged with a powerful shockwave, hovering above them, free and undisturbed. "You have surpassed my expectations, lesser beings. However, this does not alter the outcome. Your planet will inevitably be consumed by the Great Galactus." As he elevated his hand for another strike, clang! A shield struck the side of his head, causing it to tilt at an angle. The shield rotated gracefully through the air before firmly embedding itself in the ground. Prominently displayed on its surface was the red and white emblem of the Umbrella Corporation. It was Captain Supreme. Rogers emerged from the smoke, calm and collected, his gaze steady. "Should I offer you an opportunity to rethink your position," he remarked while retrieving his shield, "you would refrain from making such unfounded statements." Wanda, Rogers, and the Mandarin advanced, positioning themselves in a line before the Silver Surfer. The presence they projected was sufficient to make any observer understand. These individuals were far from ordinary. "Stark, who are they?" Johnny inquired quietly, moving closer to Iron Man and lowering his voice to avoid attracting attention. "I am uncertain as well," Stark responded, his eyes narrowing with curiosity and a touch of envy. "However, they are likely affiliated with another superhero organization." As he spoke, Stark found himself envisioning the dark, imposing figure lurking in the shadows, the Black Devil. Should anyone be capable of uniting such influential figures under a single banner, it would undoubtedly be Naruto. 3 lesser intelligent lifeforms? You believe you can impede my progress?" Silver Surfer scoffed, his voice resonating with contempt as he swiftly advanced toward Wanda. To him, she represented the most vulnerable target. A nascent individual with emerging abilities, what level of threat could she genuinely represent? However, he had significantly misjudged her capabilities. A crimson haze surged forth, enveloping him completely. In a moment, his remarkable speed lost its significance, akin to attempting to sprint through dense mud. Chaos magic. This was Wanda Maximoff's realm, the volatile, unrefined power of reality-altering magic. The Silver Surfer, after countless ages, encountered a formidable challenge. The red mist enveloped his body, resembling a sentient tar that sapped his momentum and penetrated his form with unsettling accuracy. He emitted a low growl, and an unseen shockwave radiated from his body, fracturing the binding field that surrounded him. The realm of chaos magic commenced to grow, expanding swiftly akin to a balloon nearing its limit. Struggling to maintain composure, Wanda tightened her fists and let out a scream, resulting in the sphere's detonation. Exciting development. The shockwave reverberated across the battlefield, originating from the Surfer. It propelled the Avengers backward with significant force. Susan Storm, fatigued and unsteady, exerted her remaining strength to intercept each of them in midair and ensure their safe descent to the ground. The exertion proved overwhelming. Her body collapsed, unresponsive, the instant they arrived. Wanda knelt, her breathing labored, her complexion ashen, with blood seeping from her nose. However, her eyes, those intense, unwavering eyes, remained steadfast. The crimson energy surged once more. The Silver Surfer maneuvered gracefully through the air, skillfully evading her subsequent wave of magic. However, that was the moment the Mandarin took action. With a swift motion of his wrist, one of the 10 rings shone brightly, causing the Silver Surfer's body to abruptly descend, impacted by an unseen force. The ground fractured beneath him. What? Gravity manipulation. The Surfer clenched his jaw, attempting to ascend once more, yet he found himself ensnared. Before he could make his escape, a shield materialized, crafted from an unknown substance, adorned with enigmatic engravings. It impacted with remarkable intensity, obstructing every one of his actions with meticulous accuracy. Captain Rogers, equipped with his advanced combat armor, advanced decisively. His movements exhibited a seamless, precise, and effective quality. "Not bad, Rogers," the Mandarin commented, maintaining the full force of the 10 rings. However, his relaxed demeanor had vanished, substituted by the intensity of conflict. His strength exceeds our expectations. Rogers did not provide a response. His gaze was intense, jaw set firmly. Despite the advancements provided by the T-virus enhancements, the second-generation serum, and his cutting-edge uniform, Rogers was not making progress. He had previously faced the Hulk directly, however, this was an entirely different matter. The Mandarin clenched his jaw. He exerted the 10 rings to their maximum capacity, manipulating gravity with formidable intensity. Any typical life form would have been reduced to a mere pulp by this point. However, this entity, this silver demon, was continuing to ascend, readying itself to take flight once more. The Silver Surfer exhibited extraordinary strength. However, the distinguished members of the Sharp Blade Squad were far from ordinary. In an instant, the battlefield transformed into a tumultuous display of light and power. Crimson chaos magic illuminated the sky with its dynamic energy. The shield engaged with strikes infused with cosmic energy. The 10 rings exerted a significant influence on space and pressure. The Avengers struggled to maintain their pace. What type of power is that? Johnny inquired, his jaw slightly dropped as he observed the battle unfold. The aftermath of each collision generated significant shockwaves throughout the surrounding area, sufficient to cause Johnny's hair to stand on end. He felt a deep unease at the prospect of being caught in the middle. He knew he wouldn't endure for long. Reed observed the conflict in the distance with a serious demeanor. His previous optimism, coupled with the fleeting excitement of being rescued by new allies, had almost obscured his judgment. However, at this moment, he was aware. The disparity in strength between them was significant. Stark found himself captivated by the Silver Surfer as well. In his thoughts, a singular image repeated incessantly, the Black Devil. Naruto. Should Naruto be present? What approach would he take in this situation? Would he overcome this Silver Invader? Or would he also face challenges, ensnared in this cosmic adhesive predicament? Unexpectedly, a powerful roar resonated from above. That is sufficient. A powerful shockwave emanated from the surfer. Rogers was propelled backward with remarkable force, executing a precise flip in the air before landing smoothly on his feet. Wanda and the Mandarin both summoned shields of magic and energy, preparing to withstand the impending blast. "You insolent individual!" The surfer's voice resonated, charged with intensity. "Do you challenge my authority? Are you prepared to face the consequences?" His gaze fixed on Wanda, his voice lowered to a chilling whisper. "Please, go ahead." A brilliant silver light emanated from his body, reminiscent of a newly formed star. Cosmic energy enveloped him in waves, each progressively more substantial than the previous one. On the ground, Stark experienced a moment of intense emotion. His heart momentarily faltered, and his breath was momentarily restrained. The intense pressure caused his armor to emit a low groan. The surfer was not even directing his gaze towards him. He was unable to comprehend the depth of Wanda's emotions. Or Rogers. Alternatively, the Mandarin. However, they remained upright, prepared to engage. The question now is, how do they navigate the challenges that lie ahead? "Wanda, could you please clarify your current activity?" The Mandarin's voice conveyed a sense of urgency as he observed Wanda's energy output diminishing. The protective barrier she had been strengthening was beginning to weaken. However, it was not due to any retreat. Rather, she was advancing, deliberately and with determination, moving directly toward the Silver Surfer. He was acutely aware of the formidable nature of the energy they were confronting. But Wanda didn't appear to hear him. Her mind was preoccupied with one unwavering thought: complete the mission. It was their first time tackling an undertaking of this magnitude. Her first encounter with such a powerful cosmic force. She could not fail. She would not disappoint the commander. Naruto's black armor flashed across her mind, tall, dark, and silent, yet stronger than anybody she'd ever met. A mark of purpose. Of trust. Wanda clenched her hands and continued marching through the shockwaves emitted by the Silver Surfer, the thought anchoring her heart. Her long red hair flew madly in the fierce winds, and her crimson aura became stronger with each step. "Wanda! Get back!" Rogers cried, desperation in his voice as he surged forward behind his shield. He intended to intercept her and bring her out of the blast zone. However, it was already too late. Wanda's eyes sparkled with a scarlet flame. Her body surged with uncontrolled energy, becoming stronger and more volatile. Naruto had previously investigated the source of her ability. He discovered the answer in one of the old writings he had studied while connected to Kamar Taj's huge knowledge repository. Wanda's strength was not derived from higher dimensional creatures. It did not come from any external cosmic source. It was chaos magic, ancient, primitive, and deeply anchored in herself. A force that was born with her, rather than given to her. Naruto even sought to incorporate this type of magic into his own system. The concept continued to evolve. Wanda's power was now bursting in waves, clashing with the Silver Surfer's cosmic shockwaves. Mandarin and Rogers exchanged shocked looks. This young girl, who had always needed help and was constantly sheltered, was suddenly leading the charge. She was defending herself from a cosmic destroyer. "You're impressive. To withstand my power like this," Silver Surfer murmured, his emotions shifting between mockery and fascination as he watched her approach. Wanda said nothing. Her eyes were fixed on him, cold, steady, and unwavering. The swirling mist of turmoil around her began to shift. The red cloud condensed into hundreds of dagger-like blades, each burning crimson and throbbing with destruction. They hung in the air around her, like a terrible halo. She changed her position. The cloud of ethereal daggers was unleashed at the Silver Surfer with a single gesture. "HMPH, petty tricks," he mocked, extending his hand to block them, only to stop in mid-motion. His eyes widened with fear. His purportedly indestructible body, given to him by the World Devourer, had been perforated. The daggers not only sliced, but also rusted. Dark magic seeped through each incision, penetrating deep into his core. The force of anarchy infected his shape like a virus, eating away from the inside out. His immaculate shell started to fracture. Silver flakes fluttered away into the wind. "What? How is this possible?" he yelled, attempting to flee, but Wanda's grip, her power, held him firm. He could only scream as her chaotic magic ripped him apart. His cosmic armor, which had been his pride, shield, and jail, broke under her relentless onslaught. Under it, the truth was exposed. The powerful Silver Surfer was only a dude. A broken and worn-down man. The armor crumbled away in pieces, revealing a pallid, fragile body beneath. The genuine him. Norin Rad. An astronomer from the faraway planet Zenla. Wanda's body trembled now. Blood flowed from her nose and the corners of her eyes. Her body shuddered with each heartbeat. This power was much beyond what she should have been able to handle. However, she refused to fall. Not yet, not until the mission was completed. When Mandarin and Rogers noticed she was about to fall, they raced to help. The Silver Surfer, no, Norin, was almost exhausted, his strength destroyed. It wasn't long before he fell, unable to fight any longer, as a result of their combined efforts. Wanda fell as soon as she confirmed that their target had been subdued. Mandarin moved quickly to detain Norin, and Rogers knelt beside Wanda, activating his scanner. "Vital signs are stable," the Red Queen AI said. "Severe energy depletion." Rogers sighed with relief. She was alive. That was sufficient. Meanwhile, the Silver Surfer's outer shell began to disintegrate quickly. Like a dam breaching, the energy that had formerly kept him together was unraveling. With the armor shattered, the World Devourer's influence vanished. Norin Rad, the man who rode through galaxies as the herald of destruction, was now lying on the cold ground beneath the starlit sky. He had previously worked as a scientist on Zenla, a technologically advanced culture in the outer galaxy. One day, he witnessed the approach of a cosmic terror known as the World Devourer. Norin foresaw what was about to happen and warned his people. To rescue his world, he offered himself as a tribute. In exchange for his planet's existence, he volunteered to serve the Devourer and guide him to other planets to consume. The bargain was accepted. Norin was altered. His conscience, feelings, and entire personality were buried beneath layers of atomic energy and armor. That mask had finally collapsed. A slight smile appeared on his face. "It feels good to finally be myself again." He directed his gaze upwards. The moon hung high above the earth, its brightness warm and magnificent. So much like the moon back home. His voice was wistful, as if he were savoring a memory. Then he took a deep breath of tranquility and whispered, "I'm finally free." And with that, the brightness left his eyes. The Silver Surfer, a terrible cosmic phenomenon, no longer existed. Only Norenrad remained. And now even he was gone. A big fighter jet arrived in the sky above Stark's head. Its black fuselage glittered in the sunlight, and a remarkable insignia adorned its side, and beautiful sword slicing through the center of a circle. Johnny, lying near Stark, murmured, "I'm willing to bet that's not one of ours." His tone was tinged with envy as he looked up at the falling aircraft. Back at the Avengers Tower, they'd all seen what a Quinjet was like. What about this thing? This was not a Quinjet, this was something else. The black eagle-shaped jet fell slowly and landed with spooky precision. The hatch hissed as it opened. Rogers cradled Wanda in his arms, her body limp but still breathing, while Mandarin followed closely behind, carrying the Silver Surfer's lifeless body. When they went on board, the hatch slammed shut with a sharp clank, and the massive Eagle fighter lifted off once more, disappearing into the clouds. Reed Richards jogged towards Stark, his eyes wild. "Was that part of the superhero group you mentioned?" Stark frowned at the vanishing jet, transferring the rest of his arc reactor's power to his armor's recon system. A holographic interface activated within his helmet, presenting the same symbol, a sword embedded in a circle. He read aloud, "Sentient World Observation and Response Division." He paused. "Sword Bureau," he mumbled, the name running off his tongue with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Were the people in unusual outfits part of this organization? His thoughts turned back to the Kree invasion. He remembered a few unfamiliar characters battling on the front lines and wielding power not found in the Avengers database. So, were they sword agents? Clearly, the organization's scope extended beyond that group. It boasted more advanced technology than Quinjets, as well as operatives capable of combating interstellar invaders. However, Stark had little knowledge about them, only that they existed. Reed watched the Eagle fighter shimmer in midair, activating a stealth cloak that made it invisible. He inclined his head thoughtfully and added, "Looks like it's time we faced facts. There's a gap between us and them, and if we're smart, we'll start closing it right away." The Avengers returned to Avengers Tower, somber and silent. After assisting in the restoration of power to Stark's armor, Reed and his four-person team returned to the Baxter building. The conflict had destroyed the mild hubris that had begun to creep into Reed's thoughts. This skirmish had served as a brutal wake-up call, revealing how large and complex the superhero world truly was. But with humility came something more: determination. "Londies," Reed instructed his AI, "initiate a new project." He went right into his research. If the Avengers were to stand out in the new era, they needed more than just uniforms and science. They needed something that would attract attention. They wanted a ship that could rule the sky. Reed wasn't the only person working. Back at Avengers Tower, Stark was immediately deep in his own design schematics, welding tools in hand, his mind racing. Several hundred light years beyond Earth, in the great, chilly expanse of space, a ripple of uneasiness disturbed a massive form. The planet devourer. Galactus. He instantly felt an emptiness. The connection between him and his herald was lost. His Silver Surfer had disappeared. His hand-forged Pioneer, designed to scout and collect energy-rich planets for him, was no longer in existence. What happened? Galactus scowled, confused. He hadn't eaten in a while. His energy stores had depleted, leaving him weak. Even so, the notion that the Silver Surfer had been defeated? "What do we mean by a primitive world like Earth?" "Impossible," Galactus mumbled, shaking the ludicrous idea from his mind. He'd created the Silver Surfer. He was molded by cosmic energy. He was endowed with the capacity to destroy stars. A backwater planet with limited intelligence could not defeat such a creature. The idea was ludicrous. Still, that planet, even before the Silver Surfer's signal faded, he received information that Earth was alive with biomass energy, its life force dense and rich. Easily one of the most delicious worlds he had seen in millennia. His gut growled, loud, low, and thunderous, like a crumbling mountain. "Damn it," he moaned, clutching his stomach. "I haven't eaten in too long. I'm starving." His gaze focused on a nearby lonely planet. A lifeless husk covered in shattered maroon landscape. He paused. Then he flew toward it. The planet began to crumble as soon as he descended, driven by his cosmic hunger. Its crust melted away, revealing the molten star core inside. He devoured it in one mouthful, and immediately gagged. His face twisted with contempt. Ugh! That tasted like rotting meat. He spat the star core back out in disgust, his eyes blazing with wrath. Nope. I'm gonna die if I keep eating garbage like this. His enormous body hung in space while he whispered to himself, his voice low and harsh. Just hold on. Once I reach Earth, I'll finally feast like a god again. With renewed desire in his eyes, Galactus turned and sped toward Earth, leaving behind a trail of cosmic fire. At his current rate, he would arrive in 1 month. To humans, that meant 30 days. To him, it was just a blink of an eye, a mere second. A month later. Somewhere on Earth. Sir, congratulations on completing the development of the spatial armor. Naruto was in the middle of a high-tech chamber, his body surrounded by dazzling robotic arms. The voice of his AI assistant boomed throughout the room, calm and precise. Based on current calculations, your success rate against Galactus has increased from 27.59% to 63.2%. Naruto's hands moved with steadfast precision as he guided one of the mechanical arms, carefully inserting a bright azure gemstone into the chestplate of the armor. When the jewel was snapped into position, a flood of light burst from the suit, cascading across the room in an ocean of bright blue. Everything was drenched in the glow. The armor didn't just shimmer. It surged with spatial energy, bending space around itself. With it, Naruto was ready. The countdown to Earth's reckoning had started. Reed, we're about to make history, Stark exclaimed, almost vibrating with enthusiasm. Inside Avengers Tower, he and Reed Richards were hard at work in front of a giant, cobbled-together gadget that appeared more like an unfinished sci-fi movie prop than a working technology. After their devastating battle with the Silver Surfer, Stark had not wasted a moment. He had ingrained the name of the planet Devourer in his consciousness and relayed the horrifying information to the other Avengers. They were unaware of Galactus' full range of abilities. But what if a powerhouse like Silver Surfer was just scouting for the actual threat? Then the genuine thing had to be beyond anything they'd ever seen. To prepare for the impending storm, Stark and Reed formed a partnership, two of Earth's sharpest brains working together to develop a new weapon. It didn't appear like much just now, wires running everywhere, circuit boards exposed, sparks occasionally flying, but its potential was far from straightforward. According to their estimations, when fully operational, this gadget might instantly destroy beings on Silver Surfer's level. They even gave it a name that reflected its ambition: the Planet Devourer Destroying Device. Tony, we're good to go, Reed remarked, pulling his elasticized arm from deep within the machine. His face was flushed from excitement. The rubber man strikes again. Pretty soon, maintenance workers everywhere are gonna be out of a job, Stark said, chuckling as he switched the main power switch. The lights in Avengers Tower flickered, and then, boom. Complete blackout. Everything that used energy shut down at once, including computers, elevators, and even emergency lighting. Stark had expected the device to be a power hog, but this was something else entirely. He had even prepared 20 extra arc reactors to feed the beast, but he realized it wasn't enough. The Planet Devourer destruction device roared to life, unleashing massive amounts of energy. Static electricity permeated the air, causing Stark and Reed's hair to stand on end as if they had poked their fingers in light sockets. Despite the pandemonium, the two of them were grinning like maniacs, almost vibrating with delight. This was only a partial power output. They could only picture the havoc after it was completely juiced. Then, without warning, a dazzling crimson beam emitted from the device's crown, slicing the roof of Avengers Tower like a laser knife through butter. It flew into the sky, burning away through the clouds, tearing through the atmosphere, and disappearing into the depths of space. Stark rubbed his chin thoughtfully while staring at the big, smoldering hole in his roof. Yeah, we're gonna need to put a few more safety protocols on this thing, he said with a laugh. Reed, still wide-eyed from the power show, nodded enthusiastically. Definitely. Just as the two were admiring their Frankenstein creation, Jarvis' voice crackled urgently into the room. "Sir, we've lost contact with multiple Stark satellites. The outage is widespread, and before the outage, our sensors detected a surge of ultra-high-energy cosmic particles." Stark, still partially preoccupied by the hole above him, shrugged. "Solar storm again? Happens every few years. Blows out some satellites. No biggie." Jarvis expressed alarm, saying, "Sir, this event is different. Our instruments confirm that these particles differ significantly from those of a typical solar storm." Before Stark could understand this, a magnificent scene unfurled outside the damaged ceiling. The night sky, which was formerly black, began to glitter with color. Waves of green, blue, purple, and red lights flowed over the sky, like an ethereal ocean whirling above. "Auroras," someone muttered. "Look at that, it's gorgeous. I didn't think you could see the aurora in New York. It's like magic." People from all over the city congregated on rooftops, streets, and balconies to marvel at the phenomena, entirely oblivious of the underlying reason of its beauty. They did not know. They couldn't know. These auroras were not caused by a benign solar flare. They were a forerunner, a sign. Galactus was nearby. The following morning, the news blared across all major channels. Experts confirmed that the global auroras observed last night were caused by an intense solar storm. Citizens are urged to remain calm. Large-scale auroras are rare, but not without scientific precedent. The Avengers Tower incident, involving a mysterious red beam, is suspected to be related to the unusual aurora phenomena. Naruto Uzumaki stood in front of a floating holographic projection, watching the news come in. Skynet's voice joined in with a snort of artificial pleasure. "These humans are truly amusing. Even when reality stares them in the face, they concoct convenient explanations to avoid panic." Naruto chuckled gently. "Skynet," he informed me, "humans are complicated creatures. Unlike your flawless coding, they thrive on inspiration, even in error. What you see as mistakes, sometimes we call it genius." Skynet processed this in silence, as if pondering the unusual human logic. Naruto did not press the issue. Instead, he returned his concentration to the task at hand. "Pull up the sword's orbital satellites feed," he told the commander. "Monitor the Galactus's trajectory in real time." Stark built his weapon. "Now it's our turn." The holographic display moved to show a live feed from Sword's orbital satellites. An enormous, fuzzy, and menacing shadow glided through the deep blackness of space, more than 10 light-years away. The silhouette of the planet Devourer. Naruto's V-shaped eyepiece flashed brightly, with a chilly glint flashing across the lenses. The battle for Earth's survival had officially begun. Galactus peered at the minuscule blue speck of light in the distance, his hunger intensifying by the second. He could already smell the tantalizing perfume flowing from the planet Earth. "Damn it," he mumbled as his huge stomach growled once more. Without hesitation, he increased his speed even further, blasting across the universe like a living hurricane. He needed a feast. Now. An overpowering wave of high-energy particles exploded from his massive body, breaking through the huge cosmic barrier. Tiny space beings fled in fright, their delicate bodies quivering as they felt Galactus' raw, choking might. He didn't pay them any notice. He only cared about one thing: the Earth. Based on previous stories, he knew that if he could devour Earth, he could restore his strength to that of a half-celestial god. Meanwhile, back on Earth, it was another quiet, windy morning. People relished the peaceful hum of everyday existence. Until the sky suddenly darkened. "What's happening? Is there an eclipse today? Where's the sun?" People looked up in surprise, and gasped. Half of the sun had disappeared behind something. And to the naked eye, it almost seemed like a person. Panic spread throughout the crowds. How can something so enormous and human-shaped cover the sun? News networks rushed to report the anomaly. Sudden solar eclipse sweeps the Western Hemisphere. A once-in-a-century eclipse visible across the globe. Scientists. Shadow resembles a human figure. Experts suggest possible meteorite phenomenon. But something was obviously wrong. This was not an ordinary eclipse. Normal eclipses did not last this long. And the shadow was not static. It was growing larger. It was heading toward Earth. A creeping fear gripped people's hearts. Could it be anything flying directly at them? Reed grimaced as he looked through a customized observation equipment inside Avengers Tower. Tony, this might be the Galactus we were warned about, he whispered quietly. Stark, now completely armored, smirked with his customary arrogance. Take it easy, Reed. We've got our destruction device all set and just hanging out, ready to go. If he gets any closer, we're going to send him right back to whatever black hole he came from. The Avengers were on high alert, all set for battle. So, there it was. The Galactus destruction device, now packed with even more power, all set and ready to go. As soon as the enemy got within range, it would shoot without a second thought. At Sword headquarters, things were buzzing with preparations. Naruto had earlier decided to move the Dark Star to steer clear of the chance that their HQ might get wiped out in the upcoming chaos. The Sword base was now floating safely in the Kuiper Belt, hundreds of thousands of kilometers from Earth. Hey, did you hear? Galactus is getting closer, someone said quietly. The Sharp Blade squad gathered around a huge holographic display, watching as the enormous being gradually slowed its approach, getting bigger and bigger. Naruto had already put together a detailed battle plan. It's nearly time, Roger said softly, fastening his shield in place. The Great War was just around the corner. In space, Galactus was grinning, his huge mouth nearly watering as he watched Earth get bigger and bigger in front of him. This is so delicious, he said with a deep voice. The closer he got, the more the captivating scent filled the air. He was already in his devouring form, all set to feast on the planet in one epic meal. Hey, it's time. Inside the Skynet base, Naruto was checking out the live feed coming from the Sword's orbital satellite. He spoke in a calm voice, but his eyes were as sharp as blades. As he chatted, the Uzumaki Industries twin towers, previously just ordinary skyscrapers, started to change in a big way. Huge mechanical parts shot out from windows and secret compartments, twisting together quickly like metal vines coming to life. The sleek towers, which used to be wide at the bottom and narrow at the top, transformed into something much more foreboding, almost like two giant siege cannons pointed up at the sky. In the streets of New York, folks paused, captivated by the scene playing out right in front of them. Wow, what's going on? Hey, what's happening with the Uzumaki Industries building? Whoa, it's changing. The Uzumaki Industries headquarters, a well-known spot in New York, had transformed into something really unsettling. The whole structure throbbed with energy, streams of bright blue and dazzling gold light coursing through its metallic veins like a relentless heartbeat. Inside the towers, energy from two infinity stones, the Mind Stone and the Space Stone, was being channeled upward through a network of conduits, all coming together at the tops of the towers. At Avengers Tower, Stark and Reed sensed it right away. A massive wave of energy hit their sensors, frying them in just a few seconds. What on earth is that? Stark said, his eyes wide with surprise. As they looked between the tall buildings, they could just see the Uzumaki Industries towers, now glowing with a lively, rhythmic light. Hey, sir, Jarvis said, his voice a bit strained. It looks like Uzumaki Industries has turned on a device that's kind of like ours. However, the energy output is way beyond what we can generate right now. Stark and Reed shared a glance, both clearly taken aback. They really believed the Galactus destruction device was the ultimate weapon. But you know what? Uzumaki Industries had been working on something even more chilling behind the scenes. A thought kept creeping into their minds. How did Uzumaki Industries find out about Galactus? Suddenly, the ground near the Uzumaki Industries building shook a bit, responding to the intense energy building up at the top. Every pulse of that energy thumped like a war drum, resonating deeply in everyone's chest. So, these twin towers, they were secretly remodeled by Naruto after the Kree invasion. He designed them to specifically tackle any future catastrophic threats that might come our way. Wow, what is happening here? Could this be some secret superweapon that Uzumaki Industries has been hiding all along? What's going on with all the hair on my body standing up? Uzumaki Industries, what on earth have you been keeping from us? People started to panic and run away from the Uzumaki Industries building, feeling completely overwhelmed by the scary energy coming from it. The two skyscrapers looked like giant artillery cannons, their sights set squarely on the approaching planet Devourer. As soon as Naruto called the shot, the two Infinity Stones came together, unleashing a massive explosion that hit the cosmic predator hard. Up in the sky, the planet Devourer was getting ready to take a big bite out of our beautiful blue planet, his enormous mouth wide open and ready to go. "Hey, it's time." Naruto's voice resonated within his neural network. Suddenly, a huge burst of energy shot out from the top of the Uzumaki Industries building, like two giant, pointed arrows slicing through the air. The sky was lit up with a stunning mix of blue and yellow light, almost like there was a second sun shining down. So, over at Avengers Tower, Stark went ahead and activated their energy weapon too. A bright red beam of energy shot up from the top of the building, piercing the sky. 3 beams of power, blue, yellow, and red, shot out from Earth, all coming together at the huge figure floating in space. Galactus, caught up in his daydreams of devouring worlds, was totally unprepared for such a strong comeback. The first thing that hit him were the yellow and blue beams from Uzumaki. Wait, what? He couldn't believe what he was seeing. His face showed it all. He had figured these primitive creatures wouldn't put up much of a fight, but the power in those beams was honestly pretty scary. Just as he was about to respond, the twin beams shot out and hit him, their energy ripping through his massive body. The endless energy from the mind and space stones surged through him like a wildfire, bringing with it a level of pain he could hardly fathom. Just moments later, the red beam from Avengers Tower fired off too. It's not as strong as the other two, but it still packs quite a punch in terms of destruction. With the constant onslaught, Galactus's huge figure started to give way. He was using up all his energy just to protect himself, and that meant he couldn't keep up his massive size anymore. Before you know it, the once mighty giant had shrunk down to a mere titan, standing about 9 meters tall and radiating pure, condensed fury. "Hey, sir, just a heads up. Energy weapons are beginning to overheat," Skynet's voice chimed in through Naruto's neural link. "Let's call for a ceasefire." "All right, everyone, the real show's about to kick off," Naruto said with a calm demeanor. He could feel his heart racing with excitement. Galactus, despite being weakened time and again, was once a real powerhouse at the celestial level. Facing off against an opponent like that would be a unique chance for Naruto to really hone his skills. "Hey there, little bugs. Looks like your time is up." Galactus let out a roar that sounded like thunder cracking, filled with an anger that seemed almost beyond comprehension. He just wanted to take in a simple world, but somehow, this planet fought back and actually hurt him. For someone like him, a celestial-class entity named Gracchus, to get hurt by the weapons of a lesser civilization, it was just beyond humiliating. "Hey, we've got a situation here. The target is speeding up and heading straight for Earth. We're keeping an eye on him at full capacity." Skynet's voice had a sense of urgency to it. Now, looking leaner and way more nimble, Galactus zipped through like a whirlwind of destruction. With one swift move, he covered tens of thousands of kilometers, diving into Earth's atmosphere like a meteor on a mission. He was going to make this planet pay for what it did. "Looks like the target has made its way into Earth's atmosphere." Skynet confirmed the predicted landing zone, New York. It felt like fate was pulling a fast one on New York. The city had just fought off the Kree invasion, and now it was up against an even bigger threat, Galactus himself. "Hey, check this out. Hey, what's that up in the sky? He's on his way to the Statue of Liberty. Hey, what's going on?" People looked up in fear as a massive shadow zipped through the clouds, racing toward the center of the city. Wow, that was loud. An explosion shook the Earth with an incredible force. So, Galactus just came crashing down close to Manhattan, and guess what? He totally shattered every glass window for like 10 kilometers around. When he landed, the impact was so strong that it smashed down into the sea, sending huge waves splashing everywhere. The riverbed gave way beneath him, creating a huge crater. A huge shockwave surged through the water, creating massive tidal waves. "Hurry up! Whoa, a tsunami! What on earth is going on?" The citizens were so shocked that they could hardly wrap their heads around the disaster happening right before their eyes. But when that first massive wave came rushing toward the city, it really hit home. The air was filled with screams and cries. New York was thrown into chaos as folks rushed to escape the rising waters. Tsunamis crashed into skyscrapers, flinging cars around like they were nothing, tearing up streets, and engulfing everything in their way. So, there we are, deep inside the Uzumaki Industries building, and Naruto is just chilling as he slots the space stone into his custom-made armor. With a slight smile, Naruto felt the powerful energy flowing through him. "All right," he said softly, his voice low but buzzing with excitement, "the real show is just getting started. Stay tuned for more." Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I'm thrilled you watched the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe for even more exciting content coming your way soon.